How can be the people with the information be the same people dying of the disease? How can it be the people who saw their parents die of the disease, who saw their parents live with the disease, who saw their classmates being orphaned, who saw their community getting wiped, who attended funerals as children of parents and their neighbors and their uncles and their aunties and their relatives and their friends and their schoolmates' parents who have died of AIDS, be the same generation that is not scared of AIDS.
The sharp rise in new HIV infections among adolescents aged 15 to 19. Nearly half of last year's new infections were recorded among children and teenagers.
What in the world, bro? Tell me, what am I missing? Please. Today is December 1st, 2025, also known as International AIDS Day. AIDS became an epidemic back in mid-1980s. Let's say 1985, around that time, 40 years ago. There is a report that just came out about the AIDS cases in Nairobi. There is something I want to point out. The report said that the thousands of new cases are between young people. The cases are of young people between the ages of 15 and I think they said 23, something like that. I'll look it up and put it here. Here is the thing. When AIDS became an epidemic in the 80s, the people who were affected the most by the AIDS epidemic were in Uganda. They were in Kisumu, Migori, Kakamega, all those areas, Nakuru, and then obviously Nairobi.
Nairobi, Migori, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Ibisha, Siaya, Kakamega, Nakuru, Mombasa, and Bungoma accounted for 60% of all new HIV infections in 2024. Nairobi County led with 3,045 new infections, followed by Migori, 1,572, and Kisumu, 1,341.
1985. We are going to give it 40 years ago. Walk with me here. The areas that were affected by the AIDS epidemic are the same areas that are seeing new cases in their thousands 40 years later. The kids that bore the brunt end of the AIDS epidemic in the 80s, 40 years ago, are now in their 40s. Their children are the ones reporting the new cases of AIDS. Sijui kama tunaelewana. The people who were in the closest proximity with AIDS 40 years ago, their children are the ones contacting AIDS in biggest numbers. The people as children that were in direct contact with AIDS, their parents died of AIDS. When I was growing up, around that time, there was a very successful young man who moved into our village. I don't know where they had come from, maybe from Kandara or Kiambu. And he set up a chemist, a pharmacy in Managua. And before him, there was only one other pharmacy. This guy became an instant success. His business grew so big in such a short period of time. It was unbelievable. In a little sleepy town in the middle of nowhere, central Kenya. In the 1990s, very early 1990s, this guy died of AIDS. And then his wife followed. These are new plants in my village. They did not belong there. These are very new people there. And now they just left their young children in a foreign village. I don't remember those people's names, but I remember their daughter's name. She was older and the boy was younger. Just two kids. Those kids were left alone in the village, in a foreign place where they did not grow up in. They were barely making new friends there. They were gone. Very successful young man. He died, and then his wife followed. That generation now, those orphans that witnessed everything, that saw the epidemic firsthand, that were left as orphans. If you go to Uganda, they are scattered everywhere. The proliferation of NGOs in Uganda was fueled by the AIDS epidemic. And now those children became adults, have children, and their children now are the ones that are taking the epidemic lightly. You know, when I saw that video, about the statistics. That's the only place I could go. That was the only place my mind went. Because on average, people who have teenage children, teenage to 22, they are at the age of 50, especially women. So people who grew up witnessing firsthand the disease ravaging their communities, if not their immediate families, who carried the stories into dinner tables and family events and attended funerals and cared for extended family members that have been orphaned by the disease. And so first had the influx of Americans and Europeans into their society, into their community, into their villages, adopting these orphans. They went to school with kids that have been orphaned by the disease. Their first contact with foreigners is because those foreigners were responding to the scourge of the disease. They have lived with the trauma of the experiences and the effects of the disease. Whether it's in Migori or in Nakuru or in Kampala or in Jinja, all those stories are the same. If there's any group of people that is more informed about the disease, it's that demographic. What are we missing here? I have 2 conversations already recorded. I think it's episode 49 and episode 51 on my YouTube. And I have another one pending, directly linked to this AIDS epidemic. Episode 49, I think. This guy is 25. His girlfriend is 20. 20. And unbeknown to him, not only did her mother die of AIDS, which he came to discover much later, the girlfriend herself, had AIDS. The mother died at 44. We did the calculations. The mother died at 44. When this girl was 17. And we were trying to estimate whether she was born with the virus. Because she is 20. Everything in her life points to a very normal life. She's in the university right now as we speak, on merit. Her mother died of AIDS. You know, that's what I'm struggling with here. The people who have the closest lived experience with the dangers and the effects of the disease are the ones taking it for granted, are the ones taking the precautions, Cavalier. something is not right. The next story, episode 51, I believe, is another young man. I think he's 29 or something. And the girlfriend is 22. The girlfriend's mother is the one who pushed her daughter to him at his supermarket, his shop. Then the behavior of this girl started changing. She started dressing up and cleaning up and using makeup and wearing skimpy clothes. And one night she was gone and she came the next day early in the morning and surprise, honey, we are pregnant. No, she is pregnant. And so the happy couple goes for the prenatal care, and on the initial appointment, they are both tested for AIDS. The woman is pregnant. The Kenodia is there, clueless. Lucky for him, he took her to his buddy's practice, medical practice. So the guy, the doctor comes and says, buddy, something is not right here. I have tested both of you, and your pregnant girlfriend here is also pregnant with AIDS. She is HIV positive, and you are not. But let's get a second opinion at Mama Lucy's hospital. Go get tested there. I'll place an appointment at end of time and see if we can confirm what I am seeing is correct, that you are negative and she is positive. They go to Mama Lucy and yeah, the woman is both pregnant and has HIV. The guy has neither. Pun intended. So what does that tell you? Automatically, this is not his pregnancy. She went shopping for an alpha seed and she got a discount of AIDS. And Kenodia here is clueless. Now, back to my point. The people who saw AIDS firsthand, these are their children with AIDS. These are their children with the new cases of HIV. Their mothers in their mid, late, and early mid and late 40s and early 50s. The ones who saw AIDS firsthand, their children are the ones with AIDS. How is, what is happening? Where is the information disconnect? You know that saying? The more things change, the more they stay the same. How can be the people with the information be the same people dying of the disease? How can be the people who saw their parents die of the disease, who saw their parents live with the disease, who saw their classmates being orphaned, who saw their community getting wiped, who attended funerals as children of parents and their neighbors and their uncles and their aunties and their relatives and their friends and their schoolmates' parents who have died of AIDS, be the same generation that is not scared of AIDS. What is happening? They are treating AIDS, and I have had this in real time on X conversations. That is something you can live with. That is no longer a big deal. As long as you are taking your whatever virus, antivirus medication, you are good to go. What in the world, bro? Tell me, what am I missing? Please.